So this week is the story of Korach. Korach was a cousin of Moses that led a rebellion against his leadership and leadership altogether, which ended in a great debacle of Korach being and his entire camp that followed him and all those who were persuaded to his side. They were all swallowed up by the earth, except for his children that at the last moment had a change of heart and were saved. So what was exactly the nature of the rebellion? We read the story, simple translation. He is rebelling against the leadership, period. In the words of Korach, everybody is holy. Why, therefore, do you exalt yourself over the congregation of God? You and your brother Aaron. You as king and Aaron as high priest. Now, to be sure, there's an answer that is given at the simple level. It was all motivated by a kind of anger. So here's the story. Korach argued like this. My father was one of 4 brothers, all the children of Kohath. Let's just go back. So Levi is one of the 12 fathers of the 12 tribes. Levi produces the Kohanim, the Leviim, the leaders. Moshe Rabbeinu was a Levi, so is his cousin Korach. So Levi has a son Kohath. Okay, Kohath has 4 sons: Amram, Yitzhar, Hebron, and Uziel. Amram, firstborn, his 2 children are Moses and Aaron. So that stands to reason, therefore, in terms of authority and position, because Moses and Aaron are the sons of the firstborn of Kohath, Levi's son. Therefore, they get the 2 positions of prominence, king and high priest. But he is the son of Yitzhar, which is the second son. And then, who was appointed to the next position? Not him. He appointed the son of the youngest brother, Uziel, as the next position of leadership and prominence. And that's the simple reason why he was angry and upset and felt slighted and led the rebellion. The problem with this explanation is, however, that took place months earlier. Why did he wait so long? Why did he wait so long for his rebellion? Why did he wait till the story that just occurred prior to this, last week's Torah portion, which is the story of the spies? The spies, the debacle of the spies that go into the land and say we cannot do it, and then they remain as a result of that 40 years in the desert. It's right after the story of the spies that Korach, that stirs Korach with his complaint, with his rebellion, that all are holy, and why do you exalt yourself over the congregation of God? So our question is, it cannot simply be because he was skipped over in terms of the next position of prominence, but rather it must be intrinsically connected because that happened months ago. And if that was a problem, you react immediately. As time goes on, actually, as we all know, you're upset about something. And as time goes on, so it gets, the passion cools, the anger. Here, the opposite. So it's not related to that. It's clearly because it comes right after the story we just read, the story of the spies. That's when, why do you exalt yourself? We need to understand the connection. Why is his argument a consequence and a result of the whole incident of the spies? Question is clear? The answer is, as we learned, that the whole rebellion of the spies is as follows. We understand the depth of it, because on the surface, it's a very strange story. They said that God can't get us into the land. It's a land which devours its inhabitants. How could this be said by any Jew? particularly people that themselves had experienced the Exodus, the miracles of the Exodus, the miracle of the crossing the Red Sea, and most importantly, they experienced only weeks earlier, God revealed at Mount Sinai. They experienced the absolute reality of God, and they doubt whether they can conquer this country and settle the country. It's entirely incomprehensible, especially since the Torah attests to the fact that there were men of stature and great spiritual giants, scholars, giants, men of the spirit, leaders. Each one was a leader of their respective tribes. They were only leaders because they were the natural leaders, spiritual leaders of their respective tribes, and they should lose faith, lose heart. It's incomprehensible. So Chassidus explains the root of all this. Of course, they knew God could get them into the land. Every child knew that. That wasn't a question of dispute or debate or doubt. They didn't want to go into the country because they actually felt it was a test. It was a test. God was testing him to see whether they would say, no, we're not going into a land. We're not going to be occupied with agriculture and commerce and governance and politics. We're staying here in the desert to be close to you, where our needs are provided by you, dear God. We have no occupation other than prayer, study, meditation, and attachment to you. And therefore they said, we're not going in. As for the command, they suspected or believed it was actually a test. Do you want to be like all the other nations and have your own country and government and king? And deal with farming and cows and chickens and sheep and the stock market? Or do you want to stay here in the desert, in the spiritual cocoon, and devote yourself to the soul and matters of the spirit? And therefore they resisted vehemently going into the land. This is a terrible mistake. We should not be doing this. We went there, we saw, we must stay here in the desert, and here we can devote ourselves to our souls and our relationship with God. So when they said the land will devours its inhabitants, it devours our spirituality, devours our soul. It'll be a physical existence or preoccupy us. Farming, commerce. So we'll learn a bit in the evening, we'll run to shul 3 times a day, but most of our time is going to be spent in making a living and establishing a country. We're not giving up our prayer and our study and our relationship with God for this. That's why they resisted. But they learned, this is all a learning curve. They learned that you're wrong, your intentions are wonderful, but you have missed the mark. God wants a desire, God's desire rather is to have a home in this world, to stay in the desert. You might as well, souls remain in heaven, not coming down to the world to begin with. It's all about revealing God within nature. It's all about making the physical world a home for God. It's all about a relationship with a God soul in a body, the way you eat, sleep, drink, business, commerce, agriculture, that all be imbued with the divine. That's the purpose, the fusion of heaven and earth. The soul must leave heaven, and therefore you must leave the desert and descend into the natural world, because that's God's desire. It was a learning curve. They couldn't have imagined God would want such a thing. It's counterintuitive. They understood the world as a place to escape from. It's all a test. Overcome it, transcend it. No, it's about engaging it. It is the objective. Aleph Havdalah, all other religions, have that ideology in one way or another. It's about earning your place up there. So you kill people for it, or you're celibate for it. It's all about somehow crushing the body in one way or another. Christianity, it's celibacy, and it's vows of silence and vows of abstinence and vows of that's the spiritual person. And in Islam, they went to the other extreme, just killing people for that. You destroy the body. That you're doing you a favor. They destroy your body. Now, if we kill you, so you'll have a chance to be in heaven with Muhammad, with 72 virgins, whatever that is. So the spies were not, they're Jewish, and they, God forbid, to align them with Christianity or Islam, but the fundamental ideology is kind of the same. We're not going. We're staying here. We're not leaving you, God. But they learned, no, the main thing is action. It's about engaging the world and bringing holiness to the world. It was a shocking discovery. And it was meant by God to be this learning curve. We don't blame them. It's all a learning curve to discover the most, novel, shocking truth that it's about heaven on earth, not about heaven. And that every human being is made in the image of God. Every human being is infinitely precious. And I do not tire of saying it. I hope you remember this quote, because it's when I'm going to say that, because it summarizes it all. The body is not the enemy. That's Christianity. The body is not dispensable. That's Islam. It's the purpose. Soul in the body, sanctified, elevated, and so on. That's the quote. The body is not the enemy, and the body is not dispensable. It's a polite way of saying Christianity, you rooted in Judaism, you have distorted our truth, and it's time to heal you. And it's a nice way of saying to Islam, you're also rooted in the Torah by their own admission, the prophets, and Moses was the first. So we're the roots, you're the branches. It's time to align yourself with the roots and get healed. And that's what the world is waiting to hear, is this simple message. And we are pussyfooting around and not delivering it. We're the chosen people. We're the obsession of the world. And this is what they want to hear. They don't know what it is till we tell them about the sanctity of life and serving God with the body. The quintessential Jewish message that the spies learned the hard way. Not that they were so upset to remain 40 years in the desert. That's what they wanted. Say the hard way, meaning to say it was they learned the lesson. And that's the message today. It was then and today more than ever before. And that is the reason why the world's obsessed with us. Because the world is unhappy. Can't be happy if you don't live a life in accordance with the will of the Creator. And God wants heaven on earth. If you're not living that way, then you're agitated and you're going to do all kinds of crazy things. And the Jew is the obsession, because they sense deep down that we have the answer, and we do, and it's not a secret. We should be sharing it. And in living examples of that. And we show them the way we eat kosher. So we're taking physical food. And it becomes a godly act because it's kosher, there's a blessing. It's not just survival or indulgence or social. It's divine. Mikveh, sexuality, intimacy is not just lust or propagation. It's divine. It's sacred. Mikveh brings that. So every mitzvah, all the mitzvahs bring sanctity to human activity. Business. In your business, if you give the 10% to tzedakah, you elevate it, you bring sanctity to your business. If you have a Torah class in your business, you bring sanctity there. You have a mincha in the middle of the day, and you've elevated the whole thing. It's become sacred. And so on. There's 613 commandments because there are 613 components to life, and each commandment brings sanctity. So they got to see that on us. But not that they have to keep Shabbos. No, they don't want to keep Shabbos, eat kosher. They don't have to. But the message, the way, even if you're not keeping kosher, but awareness, gratitude, treating food with respect, using the energy that you get to do good, that's a universal message. All the commandments have a universal message. Tefillin, you don't have to put on tefillin, but the message of tefillin, which is binding the emotions, being the master of our emotions, directing them in healthy ways, using our intellect for productive ways, not for self-interest, but to make the world a better place. Every mitzvah has a universal message. And they got to see it on us. They can't preach it, we don't live it. And at the moment we do, it's the end of all the struggle. The end of anti-Semitism, in a second. It's thousands of years obsessed with us, and the time has come. Okay, guys, here's what you're sensing in us. We're the answer, we're the problem. You're right to everything. But here's the message. And when we do it, I see it in my own life. The response is respect and wow, wonder, this is beautiful. Tell me more. Simple as that. Human beings are good because they're made by God, easily corrupted. But the core is good. Every human being is made in the image of God. Every human being has a soul, and therefore every human being responds to godliness naturally because that's where you come from, and you're made in God's image. And so when we teach God's message to the world and live it authentically, it's very naturally absorbed, and the world will respond naturally to it because every human being is a creation of God and responds to divinity, responds to God that is very deeply. It's in the DNA of every human being. You're made by God. It's cellular. And that's, by the way, why don't you teach children about God? You think that the last thing you should talk to a child about is God. Can't see, can't touch it. Well, you bring it up when they're 20, you know, start to be, or 15 if they're very, intelligent, 30, 12, 30, 12. But you talk about God to a 1-year-old, a 2-year-old. And yet, what's the reality? It's universal. Doesn't matter. This is universal, and there are no exceptions to this. You speak to a child about God and just instinctual, you have it. Why? You can't explain it. They point to it. You don't have to. Because deep down, it's a human being, and till they get corrupted by parents and environment or who knows what, they're innocent and respond purely to God. And only later, agenda and excuses, because God means there's responsibility and accountability. And no, thank you, I don't do what I want to do. So that's what drives secular science. Don't tell me I'm beholden to any higher force. It's arrogance. The truly humble scientists, and there are many of them in the thousands, are deep believers. They see God in the beauty and intricacy of creation, especially physicists and quantum physicists, many of whom are Hasidim. So anyway, what were you saying? Back to our story here, we're running out of time. So here's the thing. So why does Korach, we're just going to end with a question now. I'm not going to answer it. So why does Korach's rebellion come after the story of the spies? Because Korach says, whoa, 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 whoa. We learned something shocking. I always thought it's about transcendence, disengagement, meditation, study, prayer, not engaging the world. And since I thought that that's what it's all about, I certainly understand and appreciate why I needed Moses and Aaron, the great men of the spirit, as we are, relative to the rest of the population, where they were just, giants. And now you told us that all of this is really not the point. Or so we thought. It's all about action, engaging the world. Well, everybody can do that equally. So we don't need leadership anymore. We don't need spiritual leadership, to borrow a term like gurus. We don't need this. It's about putting on the tefillin, giving tzedakah. That's simple. Following. So why do you exalt yourself? Why is this model of a rebbe and leadership continuing even as we go into Israel, when we're not in the desert anymore? Now it's about engaging the world, being a farmer, being a businessman, and doing that in a godly way. So that's behavioral action. We can all do that the same, and that's the whole point. So that's why the rebellion only happens now. Because while we're in the desert, I understand. But now we learned that I was wrong. It's all about here, the body. If it's about the tangible physical body, the physical mitzvahs, wrap the tefillin, give tzedakah, eat kosher, it's not complicated. It's not about meditation, transcendence. That you would need the great spiritual teachers to inspire and so on. So the end one, he was wrong too. Well, just in summary, in 2 words, it's a big explanation. It's the fusion of both. It's being engaged in the world at the same time, spiritual and transcendent, in and above. That's what it's about. Not just in the world, not just, it isn't just about the physical act. The physical act needs wings. The physical act has to be transcendent. It's about both simultaneously. We're part of the world and we're not part of the world. That's the deepest message. It's a learning curve, which you learn after the rebellion of Korach. But that's the bottom line. So the world's got to look at us and say, you're one of us, you are. But there's something about you that's transcendent and spiritual that makes you different. And we have to embrace that, because if we do not, we deny it, we just make them very nervous, because it's a big lie. We are. We're Jewish. That's it. So it's got to be both. We're engaged in the world. At the same time, we bring to the world, to rephrase this, we bring to the world sanctity, really, which is beyond the world. And that has to be evident in us. We have to bring to morality and ethics sanctity, holiness. Okay, we have to stop now, run out of time, but that's the bottom line. And that's marriage. Marriage, on the one hand, is the most physical thing possible. Before you were married, in theory, you didn't touch each other. Strange. Now you become one in the deepest way, the most physical, deepest way. But, and that's the whole point, the point of marriage is in that physical connection, the deepest spirituality is revealed, the deepest sanctity, the deepest soul connection. It's the fusion of the two. To be continued. Okay, friends.